everybody, welcome back to the Mastodon's Bookshelf. Today is January 23rd, 2014, and this is the fourth installment of Reading Corner for the year. I'm going to be carrying on with Demon Cat Part 4. This is going to be the last part of the story, so I'll have some links up to the first, second, and third parts in case you haven't had a chance to see them yet, or if you need a refresher of what happened. Because this is the last part, that means next week I'm going to have something new for you. I hope that you're going to come back and check that out. In the meantime, enjoy today's story, and I'll see you next week. Greg felt trapped. The cat was right, for all he could tell. He had to trust it, because what he had seen was worse than what the cat had done to him. He didn't know what the cat's motives were, though, and this caused him to feel uneasy. But what else could he do? So he nodded his assent. The cat raised its left wrist to its mouth, and its teeth sliced through the skin. Blood welled out of the cuts, and the cat held its forearm up to Greg. "Drink." The command was strong, and Greg took hold of the cat's hand. He tentatively pressed his lips to the wound. The blood tasted sharp and earthy, like strong wine. It didn't have the metallic taste that normally accompanies blood. Greg drank, and time slowed around him. Yet he felt as if he was moving in double time. Warmth spread through him, accompanied by a strength that he could not explain. The cat's long, slim fingers folded around Greg's hands, holding them in place. "Drink it all, for blood has power." The cat's words slid around Greg's consciousness, lost to him as he was caught in the moment's euphoria. He could feel power blossoming in his chest, like the awakening of a sixth sense. He sucked at the wound, taking more of the cat's blood into his mouth. He reveled in the taste, and as he swallowed, the world pieced itself together in his mind's eye. Without seeing it through his eyes, he watched the cat's continued struggle against the monstrous horde, which was getting weaker. The demons rallied as the resistance holding them back started to falter, pushing forward to fill the gaps. The last of the cat's blood passed through the gash on its wrist and into Greg. He stood with a heated rush, letting go of the cat's hand. The world moved in slow motion around him as he turned towards the mass of monsters surging towards him. He felt calm, even though he should have been terrified beyond wit's end. The cat's claws trailed along his arm and up to his shoulder where it stopped, the touch so light but so present. The rank smell of demonic blood and gore assaulted his nose, even stronger than before, as if he was noticing it for the first time. He felt strength like he had never felt before. Greg had a strange, giddy sensation, almost as if he was drunk. He felt in control of his actions, but at the same time he didn't. He raised his hands, palms upturned. Thoughts that he couldn't understand crawled around the edge of his consciousness. He tried to listen to them, but they slid away, down his arms, to his hands. The thoughts, if that's what they were, left him as they arced from his fingertips to the nearest monster. A word or a symbol flashed on its skin. It was too fast for Greg to register, and then it sank into the creature. Cracks spiderwebbed out from where the mark had been, and then the monster exploded. The words whispered through him, flowing down his arms to his hands, and then arcing away. Even though he didn't understand them, he felt powerful because of them, and what they could do. They came faster, rolling around his consciousness with the pace of a quickening chant. The faster the words came, the faster the demons died. The mindless forward press of the demons began to slow. The portal, Greg thought, was a problem, and as long as it was there the monsters could continue to come through. It sat against the ceiling like an angry red sore. Suddenly, Greg and the cat were alone in the office as the last demon cracked and ruptured. No more coming through the portal. The chant sliding around his consciousness stopped. Greg stretched his arms and cracked his knuckles. All of the joints felt stiff, taking a moment to center himself in the calm. He looked at his forearms, and wispy black lines crawled just beneath the skin. He blinked and they were gone. The feeling of compulsion was gone. He looked for the cat, needing to ask so many questions, but it was gone. He looked down to see the cat had reverted to the shape it had held when he found it under the patio. Greg reached down and picked it up, cradling the cat in the crook of his arm. "What now?" Greg asked out loud. His previously bolstered courage was now faltering. He looked at the cat. "Well, can you talk?" The cat squirmed in his grip and pulled itself up his arm and onto his shoulder. Greg could feel its claws pricking uncomfortably into his skin as it awkwardly balanced on its perch. The portal must be closed. The cat's voice was faint. "You don't say," quipped Greg. "And how do I do that?" "You must hurry. Something's coming." "Hurrying, but I don't know what to do." The cat growled, making a sound more like a dog. It flexed its paws, and its claws dug deep into Greg's skin. "Ah, how?" he cried out, but he could hear the whispers begin to crawl around the corners of his mind like they had before. He grit his teeth. "You and I are going to have a long chat after this." The words moved around in Greg's head, another chant that he still couldn't understand. All he was able to tell was that they were different from the words that had destroyed the monsters. Like before, the words trailed down his arms to his hands, and he lifted them to the ceiling. Symbols leapt from his fingers and stuck to the surface of the portal, laying around the edge and spiraling towards the center. A massive arm pushed its way to the portal, coming through slowly as if the symbols made it difficult, like they were thick and gelatinous. Greg swore in surprise, and the chant in his head faltered. The symbols stopped. The arm retreated back up into the portal, and Greg felt a moment of relief. Maybe it was too big to come through. He took a breath to try and calm himself. 2 sets of fingers came back through the portal and gripped its edges. Slowly, the portal began to stretch wider. Oh shit, swore Greg. His already racing heart was joined by a sinking feeling in his stomach. The cat's claws dug into his shoulder. "Focus!" Greg tried his best to do as the cat commanded. As the chant began again in his mind, his racing heart began to slow, and his breath came back more calmly. He could take comfort in the strange compulsion that overcame him. Again, he raised his hands to the expanding portal. The symbols he had already cast were still present, but they had become stretched and distorted. New ones left his fingers. Greg went to clench his fists, but he couldn't. He knew that if he could close his fist, the portal would be sealed, but the monster on the other side resisted him. He struggled against the demon, mustering all of his strength that he could manage, both physically and mentally. Everything held suspended for a moment, and then the portal gave way and snapped shut. His fingernails suddenly bit into the palms of his hands as the resistance holding them open gave way. A blinding flash of light followed by a loud snap rang through the gore-filled office as the portal's energy exploded. Greg didn't even have a chance to react before a shockwave hit him, throwing him off of his feet, pushing the breath from his lungs. He tumbled along through the debris that was tossed around with him. The building squealed in protest, glass rupturing out of the windows along with all of the garbage. Pushed with the rubble, Greg tumbled out of the window and fell. Papers swirled around him as he fell, caught in the wind. Glass from floors higher up cracked and fell as it shattered from the explosion. It glittered like ice. It would have been beautiful if not for the wind rushing past him and his gut in his throat. He tried to scream, but all it came out as was silence. He tumbled for what felt like an eternity, but was only a few moments, the building becoming taller as he fell past each floor in his descent. The sound of glass crashing into the ground became louder beneath him. Thump.